Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Hannah here. Um, so today I wanted to talk to you about triggers. You know, that feeling, wah, 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 like I'm triggered, I feel triggered, or just emotionally feeling kind of much. So what is a trigger? There's two types. There is an internal trigger and external trigger. The reason why I separate the two, either way you're being triggered, but I wanted to separate the two because sometimes it's external. For example, the news. You might watch the news and feel constantly triggered and think, oh, this is a bad world, there's bad things happening, bad people everywhere. But the truth is, it's a really lovely world. The news just highlights the bad things so that we keep watching, because fear keeps us watching. We don't want anything to happen to us, so not all of it, but a lot of the times we want to know what the dangers are. It's a very human thing to do. So you can externally be triggered, but also internally you could be triggered by many different things. So to me, how I would define trigger is a a set of circumstances, a thing, or people that create undesired emotion within ourselves. So, things, people, or a set of circumstances that create an undesired emotion within us. Usually, quite a big emotion. So, it's very like, wah, 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 I'm triggered, I'm angry, I'm upset. It's those kind of big emotional feelings that we get when we are surrounded by certain types of people or certain types of situations and circumstances. Now, today the focus will be mostly on internal triggers. The reason why I wanted to talk about it is because quite often trigger is seen as the bad guy. We don't want to be triggered. And life is very, very good at providing opportunities for us to either run, escape, or hide from our triggers. So it could be let's get busy instead. It could be let's watch Netflix and forget our problems. It could be let's drink wine, or in some cases it could be let's take some drugs. Not that I condone that, but we do as humans tend to want to run away from our emotions and our triggers. Now, I'm going to give an example to help you understand, for like in my own personal journey, how I dealt with my particular trigger. So back in December of 2019, Christmas, I reacted pretty badly to a really tiny situation. It wasn't even a situation. It was just really silly. But emotionally, I was like, ah, and it was not pleasant. Because the next day I woke up and thought, oh, I have to apologize. What happened to me? How could I have been so silly? I didn't feel it at the time, but definitely the next day I felt like, woo. And that was probably the first time I realized. I think I mentioned in the last video how during my PMS, which is probably when my emotions are most heightened, I would have that was the first time I noticed that I was having pretty bad PMSs. And I linked it back and I looked at all the arguments I've had and all the big emotional kind of feelings, and I realized, oh, this happens during my menstrual cycle. Fortunately for me, a lady who lives local started acupuncture, and around that time I'd gone to experience it and felt like, wow, this is incredible. I mean, I always say to her, it's a delicious feeling. That I love acupuncture. Anyway, so I started going to her to get some relief from what was happening to me. I didn't understand it. And especially with my awareness journey, I was thinking, well, I was just like in total bliss. Like, why am I being zapped with all these emotions that are like big and overflowing? So I spent, I would say, about 6 months getting the acupuncture, and that definitely helped alleviate some of the burden I felt at that time of the month to be so emotional. And but then I realized I have to sit down and uncover what it's about. Now, I could have gone to the doctors. They would have probably sent me home with some pills, and in some cases, that's probably a good thing. But in my case, I guess I wanted to work through it. I wanted to figure out what it was. Like, why am I so triggered by certain events, like, or just at certain times of the month, or by certain people? Like, why am I getting triggered? So rather than run away, some of the times I did run away to Netflix and wine, but I thought, no, I'm gonna chill and find out what it's all about. Now, sitting down and figuring out what it is. And this is what you should do when you are triggered. As a good friend always says, figure it out. Like, rather than run and hide, or try to at least, because the truth is you'll never be able to run and hide. They usually manifest in other forms and ways in your life. I'm a great believer that energetically we draw to us situations, circumstances, and things that usually help us grow in some way. Anyway, so I sat down, pen and paper, and said, okay, I'm triggered by X, Y, and Z. What is it all about? And part of my sessions with acupuncture, I found out that I was really not in balance. At the time, I was out there doing the most and very busy, and I was enjoying the journey actually. So I didn't even understand why I was being so highly triggered emotionally. Like, what? Like, I'm good. But come to find out, actually, first of all, there was an imbalance in how I spent my time. I was out there doing the most, and didn't have enough downtime to kind of nurture myself. Secondly, there was definitely a want of external approval, which isn't probably a nice thing to discover, but was the truth. And I think we all have it. I mean, there's a healthy amount of approval that, is okay. But I think in my case, I was probably doing a lot to prove who I am. And, that's a bottomless pit of trying to prove yourself, and not very helpful at all. And thirdly, and to my surprise, was self-love. Um, Now that's hard. I mean, if you really ask yourself, like, do you love yourself? Like, do you care about yourself? And do you honor and care about yourself enough to, in situations where you're faced with a circumstance, a thing, or a person that isn't in line with you, are you able to go, hold on, this is not what I do, this is not what I put up with, or you know what, I don't like that, or no thank you, and being able to walk away. But because I had quite a people pleasing nature, and I'd be very excited and yeah, let's do it, yeah, woohoo, and then I'd be like, oh my god, what have I done? I've taken on too much, or I'm burnt out, or I wasn't caring and loving myself as much as I should. So that was my trigger journey. I took the message. A trigger is a message. It's an emotional message internally going, something's not right, something's not aligned. And they are there not to crush you, not to, I thought Mother Nature was against me. That was it. She's trying to destroy me. Little did I know she was trying to help me understand that I need to do better for myself and be more in alignment and in balance and in self-love. So it's not always triggers are bad. They're there as a messenger to help you overcome something and get to the other side. I will add here, I think I've heard a few people say this, but quite often when you have an awareness journey, yes, you go through the bliss initially, but then, as I mentioned in previous videos, the emotions bubble up and you have to, because you're in tune now, you're engaging with yourself and your emotions and your thought patterns. So you have nothing to do but to continue to engage and face and overcome these things. So what should you do? You should definitely take a moment, sit down, figure out why you're being triggered. What are the thought patterns behind it? Because emotions follow from a thought or a way of thinking. And, quite often our way of thinking comes from lots of different places. I'll discuss that in the next video, but definitely take a moment. Triggers are not bad. Actually, they're your best friends. There are warning signs and messages that we need to make a change in the way we do things. So the things I've done after I took my message from my triggers, as uncomfortable as they were and as long as it took, to kind of say, actually, I don't need that in my life. I'm going to put that bit on pause. I'm going to deal with that person in a different way than I have before, because I'm in control of my emotions. I can't control everything else outside of me, but I can control that. And that's been very empowering, because especially over the last sort of 4 or 5 months, my PMSs have definitely been a lot better. It's still quite hard, because emotional pattern is quite hard to break, but it's definitely getting better and better, and I feel like I'm in a new chapter, a new phase, and that's one thing I've definitely dealt with. So yeah, so as part of my awareness journey, I'd like you to know that I know some people are just like all the way awake, but for some of us it is a journey. Take the time, figure it out, write it down, and give yourself the moment to go, okay, why am I feeling like this? What does it mean? Why am I getting these emotions? So yes, I think in the next video I might talk about emotions and what they mean, especially from an emotional pattern perspective, which is really important and part of breaking the cycles that we tend to kind of repeat in our lives. But have a blessed day. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.